Welcome to Comic Chop News. I'm Dan, and today we're going to go back to the Revisited series that I started a while back, and we're doing Evil Dead 2. So, as the last video kind of indicated, my thoughts on Evil Dead 1 had changed quite a bit since I first watched it. Turns out I was right. My love of the series really started with the second one, and truly that's when it became Ash's series. They really made Ash the main character, and because they had rights issues, they cut out Scotty and some of the other chuff that I didn't like. They recast Linda, and it starts out with kind of almost a restart of the movie, sort of, where they cut out everybody else, and it's Ash and the new Linda driving to the cabin, and it speeds up through everything with him almost immediately going right to the audio of the Book of the Dead and the spirit possessing Linda and him beheading her. And finally it catches up as he's outside and he gets hit by the evil spirit and flies through the air. And a pretty ridiculous scene of him flying and spinning through the air, but it's no sillier than anything else that we see in this movie in particular. So he becomes Evil Ash, the first incarnation of him. And he comes out of the puddle. Also, I got to add, if you watch the special documentary behind the scenes called The Gore the Merrier, Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi basically were human piñatas throughout this whole filming. So the sun comes up, the evil leaves Ash, he passes out, he wakes up eventually, and he drives, and we get to the scene again where the bridge is destroyed, so he has to head back. They really up the ante with Sam on the bicycle doing the speed filming of being the POV of the spirit chasing Ash. Eventually, Linda reincarnates and pulls herself out of the ground and starts dancing, and Ash can't tell if he's going crazy or if something else is happening. Eventually, she ends up coming in, and we end up out in the shed where Ash goes for the chainsaw the first time, but then her headless body comes in with a chainsaw and attacks him. So he ends up getting the chainsaw and cutting her head into pieces, where he ends up back in the cabin, and we get one of my favorite scenes because it starts into the, is he going mad or is it the evil spirit bothering him and affecting him, which they really play up the evil spirits fucking with people in this movie more than the last one. So Ash is looking in the mirror. I remember in the first one they had the mirrors kind of watery. This time the Ash in the mirror pulls him up and starts saying, "We're not okay. We just dismembered our girlfriend with a chainsaw." I'm going to add the clip in because I can't do it justice. I don't normally add clips, but I just love this clip so much. So from there, we end up meeting Professor Noby's daughter and her, I guess, lover, maybe, Ed. Anyway, they end up getting there. They can't get back to the cabin, so we get Bobby Joe, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. So they end up at the cabin. They think Ash killed him. They listen to the audio. We find out that Professor Noby's wife is not dismembered, but buried in the fruit cellar where they just threw Ash down. And we meet Ted Raimi as Henrietta. Ted Raimi was basically tortured during the filming of this. The prosthetics were causing him to sweat so much that they had to drain puddles out of his feet. At one scene, the head turns sideways, and there's just piles of sweat pouring out of the ear hole. Again, The Gore the Merrier, they show what was going on. It was incredibly hot while they were filming too, so imagine being in these prostheses for hours and hours. So they finally let Ash in. We also get a couple of things that lead up to the next movie where they talk about the hero from the sky, where Ash is looking at the pages of the Necronomicon, and they're basically showing a version of him there, and he makes the comment of, well, he didn't do a very good job, which will be the continuing thesis statement of the entire series after this. And also the other thesis statement for the series is they continually had rights issues, where in Ash vs. the Evil Dead, he couldn't even mention that he time traveled because there's rights issues. And they just could never get them all sorted out. The fact, I think it was 3 different companies doing 3 different movies, so imagine that. We get some insane gore. I mean, the amount of cornstarch or corn syrup that they must have gone through to make this movie is fantastic. The Kandarian dagger is also one of my favorite little throwaways that they have in the movie that continually keeps coming back. They have the scene with the branches, this time with no rape, which it's good on Sam for going back and kind of fixing that, and that takes care of Bobby Joe. One by one, we keep losing people. Ash turns into a deadite again, this time for a little bit longer. There's a lot of Three Stooges like flops and smacking around in this. Definitely this is where Ash really became the Ash we know and love. He has his one-liners, the groovy, just the comedy. They let Bruce go a little wild in, and as his physical humor also is fantastic. Definitely this, I think, is the movie where, myself included, everybody fell in love with the character Ash, and it's why he's endured for so long, even if it wasn't in movies. Bruce Campbell, I believe, gained his following from this. So at the end, jumping ahead, this will always be a recurring thing, saying the words, but not all the words. The daughter makes the spirit physical and opens a wormhole through time and space. But she can't close it because she's dead, because Ash's hand came back to life. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Ash cut his hand off and it attacked it. And also there is one of the greatest little Easter eggs where when he puts a bucket over the hand, he puts a farewell to arms over it. At this point also, Ash gets his chainsaw hand, the sawed-off shotgun, everything we know about Ash that has endured was through this scene. Ash ends up now being sucked through the wormhole through time. And the nightmare happens to him, where he lands, he's surrounded by knights, and there's a flying deadite coming. He shoots it with the chainsaw, and they start worshiping him as the hero from the sky, and he starts screaming no. Sam Raimi is the knight who starts screaming all hail the hero. It also, one of the reoccurring things that will constantly come through the series in every Sam Raimi movie is the 73 Delta 88. That car is in every damn movie, even in Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness, in medieval times. It got sucked through. It ended up in Drag Me to Hell, Spider-Man. Every one of his movies, that car has appeared. Bruce Campbell's made several jokes about the reason why is that Sam lost his virginity in that car. Kind of funny, but you could tell Sam Raimi figured out in between the time of between Evil Dead 1 and 2 where he wanted to move the series. He already had constraints about how he had to make the movie due to the rights and what they could use, could not use. They had some shooting issues where he had to fire the entire crew and then hire a new crew because he was not liking the way they were working out. The K&B effects, Nicotero and crew. If you watch the Gore the Merrier documentary, I feel like I'm hammering this way too much. It's fantastic, and the effects crew had a ton of fun. And you could tell in the movie itself that they enjoyed what they were doing, even though it was like suffering through blistering heat during the summer when they were filming it. I can't say enough about this movie. It is probably in my top 10 horror movies of all time. And again, it had just enough gore, and it did not embrace the all-out crazy humor like Army of Darkness did, or even what Ash vs. the Evil Dead did, which I still don't know if I'm going to review that, but I'm definitely going to do Army of Darkness next. And I will do the Evil Dead remake, which I have not watched since it released. And I'm kind of looking forward to giving it another watch. I'm not sure if I'm doing the theatrical version or the unrated, since the Blu-ray I just bought has both versions. I might do a compare and contrast of what's different. As for that, definitely my joy of the series, I now fully understand, came from this movie and not the original. And I kind of lionized the first where I really shouldn't have. But with that, I want to thank you for joining me today and listening to me rant about and ramble about this movie. if I had to give it a number grade, I would say it's probably a 7.5 to 8. It has its flaws, but the things I love about it kind of in my head ramp it up higher than maybe it should be. I definitely, even in hindsight, have this nostalgic love of it because I can remember watching this with my family. My family were all gorehounds. So we'd have like Saturday night movies, and this was one of them that we watched. I hope everybody had a great holiday. Enjoy your New Year's. Hopefully it's fortuitous for you, and good things ahead. And I just want to say thank you for watching. Comment, share. Tell me what you think of this movie. I'd love to hear dissenting comments about it. Nothing violent or, argumentative, like a calm discussion. Because I know some people probably don't love this series, don't love this movie. And don't let anything I say or think about a movie affect how you view the movie or watch the movie. Again, we all have comments about movies. We all see movies a different way. It's subjective, and that's what I love about film. And that's why I love discussing film, because we all see things differently. And I want to send a special thank you out to my friend Nicole, who, out of the kindness of her heart, for Christmas, designed a shirt and printed the shirt for me as a gift for my channel, and it's insanely nice, and it's hard for me to even react without like getting a little misty about it, because no one really ever does stuff like that. But I'm gonna leave you all now. Thank you very much, and again, I can't thank you enough for just spending your time with me. Good night, farewell.